magnificent Heineken, shouted to me by my boss. It only happens once a year because it's Christmas time. This is a delightful Christmas episode, and I hope your year's been wonderful and Jesus blesses every single day of your life. I reckon half of this year's been blessed for me, and it seems to be getting better and better right near the end of it. We've got our special guests on tonight. It's amazing that I have friends in this world, and I'm very grateful for all of them. Matty J. Stagg.
G'day, Cover.
How you going, mate?
Yeah, good. I haven't been highly irradiated, and ended up with cancer or fight into the stratosphere. So I mean, it's a good way to live your life when that doesn't happen.
No one's cut your tongue out yet for speaking your mind?
No. To the best of my knowledge, they haven't. No, I'm still alive. I'm still breathing. I'm still on the right side of the grass. So, yeah, not bad. Not bad.
Mate, Santa's almost here. So, we're right there.
Bloody hell.
Let's introduce our next guest. Timothy Wilms is known for his amazing ability to remember news headlines and recall information. Timothy, how you going, mate?
Hey, was that you, Dusty, doing that voiceover? That was pretty good. Like you were at a FM radio station doing their Hot 100 countdown. I was quite impressed.
It's a secret talent of mine I've been hiding for this very stream.
Maybe censored TV. You can do the voiceovers. Nobody would know it was you. It's like a new voice.
I know. They almost fired me, actually. I think
what'd you do?
Like 3 months. 3 months they didn't pay me, and I was harassing them, and they finally paid me before Christmas, which was nice.
It's hard to get fired at censored TV, given all the things that Gavin, Milo, and Elijah and the others got up to.
Yeah. But they do have a high turnover. I've actually lasted a lot of culling off. So it could be my time. I'm fine with that. Gavin said, we'll renegotiate the deal next year. So I was like, sick. That means I'm in with a shot, which I like. That's all I need.
Who's your agent?
Fucking myself. I negotiate with poor grammar. Gavin McGuinness is a grammar Nazi, so every time I email him, it's like a 10-year-old's written it. You know what I mean? And it really frustrates him, which I kind of like.
Have you ever dealt with like anyone in a corporate boardroom or anything before, Dusty?
No, never.
Yeah,
I've been in the principal's office and fucking get out of here, you fucking little cunt. That's about it. But all right, let's introduce the amazing Dave right now. He's an incredible man. He's got a full head of hair, 2 children, and he's much wiser than I am. How you going, Dave?
Aussie.
We've turned him into a full-blown pisshead.
Evening, boys. Good to be here.
G'day, mate. I love the Santa hat.
Yeah, thanks. I had my MAGA hat on the light, and then it's the most wonderful time of the year, so I decided to swap one red hat for another.
Yeah. I love that.
They should make. Have they got MAGA Santa hats?
They should make them. You could make them and become rich, I reckon. I've got a problem. I need to find a beer opener, so I've got a crisis on my hand. I'm going to disappear. You can talk about...
Aren't Heineken's twist tops?
Are they?
Just use your teeth, Dusty.
No, I can't open it.
Is that why you're half an hour late? You couldn't find the
I'm half an hour late because I couldn't find a beer opener.
You're a tradie, mate. Come on. You got a screwdriver, you got a cigarette lighter, you got a spoon handle, anything. Give me a teaspoon, I'll crack a beer for you.
Oh, we used to use the old Bic lighter.
Yeah, the Bic lighter. Yeah. Anything that's hard that you can sort of just lever off your hand there. I learned that when I was labouring when I was a kid.
Yeah. Well, what do you do for a day job, Dave?
Careful. He
Don't
might
dox
not want
yourself.
to dox himself.
No,
that's-
not just like industry wise. Like, are you a, you know?
That's a complicated story. I actually I got downsized a little while back, so I'm actually between normal kind of jobs. So ostensibly, I spend my days trying to find work, being a dad, and doing this. So there's that.
You got sacked somewhere along the line.
Downsized, mate. Downsized. Restructured.
Fuck, that's what I'm gonna say when Gavin
Yeah,
sacks me.
that's good spin.
Yeah. My position was no longer required in the
Yeah,
organization.
I think
And
that's
they,
how
Yeah.
Jimbo the treasurer talked about the mid-budget update this week.
the Jim's my FU to the country.
That's a good one.
Good evening, mates.
Yeah.
Well, I almost got the sack, or maybe I have the sack from Censored TV because I was managing, like, I was reposting Gavin McInnes's his post from Twitter to Gab, Getter, Telegram, Truth, not Gab, anyway, a few of them, and then he got booted off Twitter. So what I did was, instead of his socials dying, I split off all the short clips posted to the Censored TV X, and I was like, fuck, we can't let these die. I'll just funnel off some of the censored Twitter page posts. And then I guess I kept charging him for doing that. You know what I mean? And I did email and I said, this is what I'm doing. We have to keep these alive. I'm just going to do it. And I put in invoices and shit. And obviously that pissed them off.
That's audacious.
Yeah. But I mean, there's always been like a lack of communication. And I figure, like, you got to use your incentive and just be like, fucking, let's go. And like, what happened was they were like, no, I didn't fucking want that. And I was like, cool, let's take that off the invoice. And then we're all Mickey Mouse. Let's keep going. And then they finally paid me. So they were kind of probably like not paying me because they were pissed off. And I just steamrolled ahead and did what I thought. I thought what I was doing was right. Essentially, I didn't mean to piss anyone off, but
You know what they say, better ask forgiveness than permission sometimes, Dusty.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I just thought, fuck it, we need to keep these going. And do you know why? Like, the truth is, I reckon Gavin, he was very fucking funny on his X. He was hilarious. Like, he's a fucking creative genius. He's hilarious. But there's also all these little short clips going out on the X Censored TV X page of Gavin and like Kumia, and they're cracking jokes. It's so fucking funny. Like, I'm like, this shit is so good. Like, why wouldn't you want this posted and the world to see it? Like, it's fucking hilarious. It would make me laugh. And I'm like, I'm falling in love with Gavin. You know what I mean? Like, he can be an asshole. Like, behind the scenes, he can be like, fuck you. Like, he can be kind of, I can piss him off, which is fine and normal. Like, that's reasonable. But, you know, he is hilarious. He's a gifted man, and I was trying to share that with the world. Well, I think he'll forgive me and move on. He's a very forgiving person, Gavin.
That's good.
Guys tend to move on from bust-ups.
Yeah.
Yeah, depending on what the fallout is. If there's no real harm to it, yeah, whatever. The life's too short. Especially if you prior to that had a good relationship.
My wife and I, we call that skin deep stuff. So like if you're having like a blue with someone at, like, it could be work, or, you know, it could be like a neighbor, or it could be a friend but like, suppose you're just going off your chops at each other, right? But it's only ever if it's never like a personal attack, if it's just you being like annoyed and like venting, like we've always just kind of been like, we'll always just get over it. And then it's like, you know, then you go on for like 30 minutes, and then after 30 minutes, it's you know, you're fine. Like, one of my first jobs out of high school, right, was I was working in a screen printing factory where we were making school uniforms. So it was like a cash on hand job when I was 17, right? And the the workplace relations or the HR team, right, was the boss would say, right, wait for Smoko, and you two blokes duck out into the car park and have your punch on, and finish it by the time we get back from Smoko. And it was like 15 minutes, and these like two blokes would go out and they'd have at it at the car park, and then like at the end of that, like that was it. They'd just like go back to work, and it was like perfectly normal. And for me, it was like insane being a 17-year-old saying like, oh, this is conflict management here, and it worked. Whereas like these blokes, they never said like you're a horrible person. They were just like you're like, why did you do that sort of thing? Like it was two completely different sorts of conversations, but it was unreal to watch and see that sort of thing unfold.
I mean, that's half the issue now, isn't it? Where people go, oh, yeah, you said that thing about that group of people, or that one person who happens to be a member of that group of people, you racist bigot. They associate behavior with personality or an action with personality, and they, so you do one thing or say one thing they disagree with, so they just tie you with this brush and put you in this homogenous group with all these other people. It's like, no thanks, no homo. Like the isolated incidents is what this happened thing, and it's got nothing to do with that other thing. But they just see it and project all this other crap onto it.
Like, I mean, I've been smeared and called the white supremacist or white nationalist. I probably am a white nationalist. Let's be real.
It's defamation.
I think that was me last week on a DM, wasn't it, Dusty?
It's defamation.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fairly close to a white nationalist. I don't know. I believe we should maybe remigrate a lot of people and have net zero immigration. But like, this is what I'm getting at. Like, this week and every week, like I work with a lot of immigrants and I'm forever defending them. I'm forever like, listen, fuckface, leave that cunt alone. He's working his guts out, trying his best, doesn't need to be abused, because it often happens on job sites. Dudes get, for almost no reason, like properly screamed at, and they don't deserve it. And I forever be like, oi, cunt, I'm fucking would you say that to me? No, you wouldn't. So shut the fuck up, and I'm forever doing it. Like, I'm the defender of these poor bastards who do come here and try have a fair go. But anyway, that's life. But like, it's just a matter of common decency. Like, yes, I think we should remigrate some people and have net zero immigration. I don't think you should treat people horribly. Like, I think we should treat people, I would treat every person I come across with just normal respect and dignity.
And the thing is, I mean, this is, how long's a piece of string in this conversation, but there's two different types of immigration, right? There's people that came to this country to become Australians and to enjoy Australia and get into our culture and have Barbies on the weekend and go to the beach and do the things that Australia represents and what we sell to the world, versus the ones that want to come here and live in enclaves with other people that came here from their place and live with all their same laws, customs, and things, and speak their own language and not come here for anything other than, grifting off our benefit system or whatever reason they came here, because their five uncles came here 2 years ago and said, look, come here, come join us. And so they come and join us, and then they continue to build their own little cultural enclave that is not Australia, and it's not becoming Australia.
Our high standard of living. Tony Abbott described it the other night when I saw him on Sky News as too many living in hotel Australia. And it's not just happening in the immigrant groups that get the most attention. It's happening with a lot of them. And like there's people who have Australian citizenship who, even though they've got the piece of paper, they're still not loyal to this country. They still live as if it's their own country. There's this contradiction that they enjoy a high standard of living. They don't want to go back home, but they still identify with primarily with their home culture, their culture, and that's who they network with when they're living here in Australia and become Australian.
The danger I'm seeing is as well that it's becoming multi-generational, in that facet. Like their parents came here long enough and they've raised their kids to still live in that enclave with that mindset, that anti-Australia. And the example I have is the Melbourne Myer shopfront windows. So like Tim, you're down there, right? The Myer, they were going to open the windows and do the Christmas show thing, and they get a little stage out and do a little ponce and go, look, it's the Urban Kids Australia Christmas display, and some Islamic group came and threatened and said, we are going to come and we're going to protest and we're going to cause all this drama for all your families if you run your little Christmas parade of capitalism and celebration of commercialization. So don't do it.
That was a lot of white Antifa in that group as well.
Well, because so like Maya pulled the pin and said we're not going to do it. But the chick who was ringing up the radio station, she sounded like a Skippy, like maybe like, you know, with that hint of like Guido accent, like a little bit Lebanese Skippy, but fully Skippy. And she's the one who's decrying the crime of commercialism and this thing. And, we don't actually care about the families. We don't care about Christmas. We care about this display of capitalism, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, you sound Australian. So whatever anti-Australian theme has come through from your family environment, your community environment, you sound like you were born here or grew up most of your life here, and it's infiltrated you. You're not an Australian, even though you sound like an Australian.
What do you think? So, Dave, what would you say if someone was to ask you what an Australian national identity is? What do you think is Australian that couldn't represent any other nationality or any other culture?
I think like the Australia I grew up with, and you know that's what we all go back to. Like, what did we grow up in? Especially those of us who grew up in the 70s, 80s, 90s, before a lot of this woke stuff changed. But I mean, Australia is built on the like very egalitarian. You go back to the history of Australia, and it's the fair go, and it's this mindset of the culture. It's the digger cultures. All these things are hard to. It's like and this is the issue. This is the issue we have as Australians. I'm glad you've actually called me out on this, Matty, because this is the issue we had when it was like, why is marriage only between a man and a woman? And people couldn't explain it because they've never had to. It was like, it just makes sense that that's what marriage is. And so the people that will say, why are you trying to change it? They weren't ready to argue it because they've never had to. And it's the same with this, like, you know, Australians know what being an Australian is. It's that vibe. It's that looking after your mates. It's that mateship. It's the law and order. It's, you know, a respect for law and order. It's a respect for doing the right thing and looking out for one another. It's not engaging in criminal acts all the time and expecting that you get this. But we've digressed as a culture, and I think even Australians now don't think of Australia like that because we've now been browbeat into this whole white guilt. We are the enemy. We've done, our ancestors did all these bad things. We can't be proud of who we are. Regardless of our skin color or tone of Australianness, being an Australian is an inherently bad thing now because of colonialism.
I'll give you lads an anecdote. So I'm a seventh generation Australian, and our family came here in 1826 we came here as convicts. So my ancestor, he did I think it was 6 years at Port Arthur. Obviously, you know, years before Martin Bryant, but. You know, it was a what do you call it? A penal colony years ago, and so did time there. He was from London, so his crime was called destruction of brushwood. So he pulled up his neighbour's brushwood in his front yard, which is like it's a crime, and like you annoy someone, but like no one was hurt, no one died, but that was a crime enough for him to be brought out to Australia. Right now, he stayed here because when my ancestor came to Australia, he realized that the land is a lot more rich and there's a lot more opportunity in Australia than if he went back to London with his ticket to leave, right? So now I've got a second property out. I won't say where, but it's just across the border. Now I can get a metal detector at any time. There's a stream there, and the stream is full of alluvial gold. Now there's been some time where I've been able to help pay my mortgage by getting a metal detector, taking a weekend out here and quite literally digging up gold to help me pay my mortgage. Now that's, to me, there's no other country that you can do that. Australia's actually got more iron ore in our ground than anywhere else in the world, right? But at the same time, you have you've got pioneers like Burke and Wills. You've got pioneers like Seaway O'Connor. Like my favorite, Harold Bell Lassiter, who I think is like one of the national icons, and we need to cherish his memory. And I think these are Australian European pioneers who said, you know what, this land might kill me, but what might actually happen, right? Like if this land can kill me, or this land can be the best thing that's ever happened to me, right? And so for me, when I think about what it means to be an Australian, is to actually look at an opportunity that's either going to kill you, or it's going to be the best thing that happens to your family, and say, you know what, this land is where this is either going to make or break me, and I don't really care if it's going to break me, but you got to, best way I can say it is, got to risk it for the biscuit. So for me, there's nowhere else in the world where people have that kind of opportunity, where the stakes are so high either way. Like you can say, like, and the Greens do it all the time, right? Like, they'll say, oh, look at Amsterdam, and look at how they don't need cars, and all these socialist policies that they have in Amsterdam. You're like, it's like a 1,200-year-old country, right?
Yeah.
Like there's no comparison here in Australia. Like if you drive, I'm here just out of Brizzy. Like if I drive directly 4 hours west, like there's, people can die if they break down on the side of the road. Like so Australia, it's high stakes. It's either extreme wealth or it's death, and there's no in between. And when people have that sort of opportunity and they take that sort of risk, to me, that's something that represents Australia. And when you have that sort of culture and you have that sort of national identity, there's no way that you can compare that to any other culture in the world.
So I mean, my biggest problem, and you guys have always heard me say this, like, we're employing guys to do concreting, and a lot of them are immigrants, right? Fresh to the country. And I can't, like, they're living in boarding houses, and they struggle to pay the bills, and they're never going to get, like, you know what I mean? Like, I just can't, I can say, I've been looking it up. Yes, you could afford a unit, like a 2-bedroom unit. You probably could afford on a, like a entry level concreting job, right? So, but like 10 years ago, an entry level concreter could afford to buy a home in Ipswich. So, like, I do fundamentally think, like, that's my foundational point of saying, like, we need to just stop altogether. No more immigrants. We're done. Like, for the sake of these bastards who have just come in, who are, gonna have to work their guts out and not have the, you're still going to be able to buy a unit. You might be able to buy a townhouse. You might be able to. I'm trying to, like, do the maths and be like, when I finished school, I could have lived with me mates. I could have saved up. I could have bought that unit. I could have got some equity. I could upgrade to a townhouse. I could have a few kids, and maybe when I'm in my 50s, you've got equity and you sell both properties, and then you upgrade to a home. So maybe the Australian dream could still work. It's just a hell of a lot harder. But is it really, like, it is connected to supply and demand? You know what I mean? And then I work with dudes who are Koreans, Vietnamese, and you know what? They'll never be, let's face it, they're not going to be Australian. I don't think that they are law-abiding citizens. They work hard. We can have a beer. We can appreciate, like, natural law and common decency, and I would treat them with respect and have a laugh and have a joke. And one dude, African fella today, this week, he goes, it is not even hot. I could wear a jumper. It's like 40 fucking degrees, mate. It's like humidity through the roof. And I said,
is he a teenager?
No, he's like 38.
Because they're always wearing hoodies on ridiculous days. I'm like, what are you doing, you punks?
And, like, I did say to him, I said, oi, cunt, another joke like that, and we'll fucking call you, and we're going to start saying you're a true blue fucking Aussie, mate. Like, so I was stirring the pot, and I was saying that shit, but, you'll probably never be I don't know if they can ever become a true Australian. It's quite difficult. Doesn't mean I would always treat people with dignity and respect. You know what I mean? But
you know why we got wild camels in Australia, though, Dusty? Yeah.
Yeah, the fucking Arabs.
The
Like, you know, look,
Cameleers.
you come here, these people, like, look, no one wants to do concreting. Young Australians are not doing concreting. A lot of immigrants come to this country. They don't want to do concreting. They'll prefer to drive Uber. So when you do find the odd immigrant and Bogan and Islander and, you know, Abo who will do concreting, right? These people, these are the other people we say, yeah, okay. He's willing to work his guts out in the sun and banter with the best of them and get on and make an honest living in this country. That's cool. That's good. I'm working with these people. They have my absolute respect, you know, like honest to God, absolute respect. And we're fucking the country for them and our children and the future. We just need to wake up.
If they're coming for a better way of life, we're selling them a false bill of goods by packing the place to the rafters and not being able to give them the dream.
Probably better than what they've left.
Well, for now, but
is
the
better
way it keeps going with the crime and now the knife crimes, now we've got all these random wanding laws everywhere where we have like no particular like cops can just walk up and go, yeah, I just want to scan you. Why? What have I done? Nothing. I just decided that I want to scan you.
Used to be a high trust society where
That's a good term for it.
neighbor was a friend. Like a lot of people don't know who their neighbors are now.
Yeah, I was saying to my kids about locking the car, and it's like, well, because the world sucks. And like my kids, my son, teenager, he's going places and like going to the water park or whatever. I'm like, just leave your towel and stuff there. He's like, no, I can't leave my towel just on the thing. What if someone takes it? I'm like, freaking, the world sucks. You just can't go to a water park and just leave your towel on the grass because some mongrel's going to come and pinch your towel. Like, what world are we living in? Like, it's a towel now. Like, kids are like insane.
Yeah, at like swimming pools, they have like most of them have lockers now to leave your valuables. I mean, obviously technology has advanced since 30, 50 years ago, but it never was a big deal. Well, they didn't have mobile phones and other valuables back then either.
But even that, just leaving your towel on the ground, someone's gonna flog your towel. It's like, what? Anyway, high trust. We've gone from a high trust society to low trust, and a high law and order society is a high trust society. And
here's a comment: like, immigrant ain't lifting them up to our standards. It's dragging us down to theirs, and we'll settle somewhere between. But we don't want that for our kids. It's I feel that's true. And I feel like reasonable immigrants understand that. Like, they'll be like, true that.
The other thing
is, they came here didn't they come here to get away from that shit? And that's where people go. Here's the other example. There's another guy at work who's from Poland. So the Polish dude, the African dude, the Korean dude, they're all living in share accommodation. They all think this is a great standard of living. And I'm telling them, it's shit. It's shit. You have no idea. And so the standard, they are coming in and they're saying, this is great. And just that attitude is lowering the expectation of what is good.
On that comment around dragging us down and lifting them up, the other issue you have is because it's happened so quickly. Like normally you introduce like a new kid into the classroom, and unless they're a complete sociopath rat bag, like they go, oh, what do we do in this classroom? And they just fall into the norms of that room. And if it's a high discipline room, they'll fall in and they'll do what they're told and they'll sit in line because that's what everyone else does. If they walk into a room and it's a rat bag culture in the classroom, then they'll devolve into being a rat bag because that's the overall pervading culture. If we flood Australia, which was this sort of high trust, generally law-abiding, sort of respect for law and order, and we're flooded with a mass group of people, not any single country, not any single thing, just anyone, without enforcing those same rules on them because they've come in so quickly and they can't acclimatize and go, oh, this is the rules of this world, then it starts pivoting the whole thing. And so then when the next group come in, they're not seeing the high trust law and order. They're seeing this whole blend thing where, oh yeah, there's some elements of that, but then there's all this other stuff going on. And so now I'm going to clutch my purse.
I'm glitched out.
No, I can still hear you. I think that's Dave.
Glitched out.
Yeah.
Wait, get
Dave's
this for an
frozen.
idea. I don't know if this is true. Maybe Tim would know. You guys probably know. So, like, the country's in debt, and I often hear them say, like, "Oh, Queensland's at threat of lowering our AAA credit rating, right? Because of economic
It's still got nothing
mismanagement."
on Victoria.
Yeah. Same with you guys. But right, so with economic mismanagement, they go, "Oh, you're losing your credit rating," which then increases the interest rate. So you're paying more interest on the debt. So our government has said, how do we stop the country going into technical recession? Immigration, more increased consumption, increase the GDP, stops us going into recession. Is this because they don't want to? If we go into recession, we lose a AAA credit rating, then the interest on the debt increases. So they're like, we don't want that to happen.
It's politics. The politicians, they don't want to oversee a recession. And Jim Chalmers, he'll try to claim that we're not in a recession, even though our living standards are going down. It's only the insane immigration numbers that have just GDP is just above zero, so it's like 0.3, 0.2, 0.5, but we've been in a per capita recession for the last 7 quarters. So I mean, it would
we're
be
like cooking the books. Like immigration is all about
yeah.
cooking the books. It's about not losing the AAA credit rating. It's about not increasing the interest rate on national and state debt.
Also,
it's about juicing up the consumption for West
these big infrastructure projects in all our states, they say Melbourne will be a city of 9 million people by 2050. This is why we need the suburban rail loop, and that's about creating all of these mini CBDs all around the city, these high-rise towers. So it's all of it is because they are projecting in the decades to come more and more immigration. I mean, it's certainly not, Melbourne's not going to be 9 million because there's going to be a baby boom. In fact, our fertility is going down. It's around 1.5.
Did you see Matt Barry's talk? His latest one, Flat Out Like a Nation Sinking, where he did the demographic map stuff, and he looked in the Sydney area around where they're putting in these new metro lines with high-rise towers, and then he looked at the voting preferences in there, and he looked at the swing, and was calculating the population swing would require if a Labor manipulated the numbers to bring a certain number of people in that are more likely to vote for the ALP because they let them in, what would be enough to swing blue seats red. And there's this really odd correlation to the exact sort of numbers of people that they're putting in specific electorates on these new metro high-rise environment lines that lines up directly to swing blue electorates red. Like that's the whole Kamala Harris issue, right? The whole like let's bring enough immigration.
And the Liberals here, they go along with it. Peter Dutton, who's basically walked back an immigration cut, is basically, we support multiculturalism, social cohesion. That's the buzzword. Immigrants made a fantastic contribution. We're not anti-immigrant. He's basically slowly walked it all back because I think he believes that he can win next year without offering to do too much different other than just have a nuclear future rather than a renewables future.
Well,
that creates that actually creates a bit of a a bit of a dilemma, Tim, because there's a bit of a voter vacuum, right? And I've been thinking about this. So this is me just having a bit of a ponder. Is like there was a lot of here's an example, right? So there was a lot of people, young people, who are going to be voting for Labor in the next federal election, right? And then that housing minister came along and then said, we don't want house prices to go down.
Oh yeah, Claire O'Neill, that was.
And yeah, so that's basically completely alienated like the entire young voter base from the ALP, right? But even though some people might say that's a good thing, but it creates another problem, right? So they're going to vote for someone, and that someone is either going to be, say, the Liberal Party or the Greens or the Libertarian Party or One Nation. But then if Peter Dutton isn't appealing to the young voters either, they're going to go for the Greens or they're going to go for the Libertarian Party, right? So it's almost like this sort of voting vacuum where people are moving away from the majors, which I think the Greens are going to really, really use to their advantage, which is a little bit concerning.
Yeah, because they've got a NIMBY streak as well, and plus, they want everyone to rent, and then you have the Victorian socialists, that absolutely disgusting Jordan Vanderberg, who now goes by Jordan Vanderlam, whose solution to the housing crisis is just to steal property. These socialists, they want it. It's literally the World Economic Forum. You'll own nothing and be happy. They worship the public housing towers in the Melbourne inner suburbs. They want more of them, and I call it socialist housing, social housing.
It's exactly like the World Economic Forum. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy. Like we all saw that stuff. You remember the clip someone made of the guy, and he's like in his pod eating bugs, and he's going to work.
Marine Faruqi, she has about 5 properties, something really high like that.
And what's the appeal with, like you said, the Greens want people all renting? Like, is that just so it perpetuates a future dependent society? Like, obviously right wingers want more independent, self-sustainable people who are, personal responsibility, and then that
own their own property, the castle.
Yeah, so it perpetuates, like, we understand it. Like, I have a home and I maintain my home and I have to think about it, everything, looking after it.
Both Liberal and Labor, particularly Labor, they want young people to not have what was called the great Australian dream of the family home, the 4 bedrooms. They want to recalibrate home ownership to the townhouses, the apartments, and they say that this is what how Europeans live, like in France and Vienna. We've got to change our mindset.
But that's the difference. So we've had the land and the space to have the quarter-acre blocks and stuff. The fact they're jamming us into shoeboxes now doesn't actually make that like what we are in Australia. We don't have these little tiny terraces and French villages that are the Cotswolds in England that are 3,000 years old or whatever. We don't have that here. We've got a modern nation that's 200 years old, and I think the urban sprawl is getting out of hand. I would love to see more investment in the regional centres, and build out your Dubbos and your Waggas and your Oranges and your Toowoomba's and stuff, and have more people attracted to get off the coasts and get into those places.
Do you think a bullet train?
It's never going to happen.
But again, then that's still anchoring people back to the CBDs in the main capitals. Like, let's build hubs. Like, I think our states are too big.
But wouldn't you have hub? Like, you go, all right, we're going fucking.
No. Why couldn't
the Queensland coast? Then you turn like all these coastal towns, like, I don't know, Bundaberg, Mackay, Rocky, You go like,
Maybe, but where do you want the jobs in the economic thing? Are these places just 15-minute cities except for the job because you got to jump on the bullet train to get to the capital for the job, or is it let's build up industry and jobs and opportunities? I like I said, I think our states are too big. Queensland could be 4 states, New South Wales could be 2 or 3 states, and then if you've got government like a state government that is responsible for
local.
the Western region, then all of a sudden they could, think about tax incentives and things to or get companies to come out and live in those areas, to incentivize businesses, to incentivize people, to incentivize trades, different building regulations that make it easier to grow and have better housing and lower house prices. Like the US federalist model, the states have a lot of differences and independence versus just what comes down from here. But here, when we went and federated in 1901, we've been slowly homogenating all the states to be unrecognizable, that we might as well not have states to a certain extent. And I think
it's just one capital. Like if you like, there's 50 US states. They have so many cities. So you look at Florida, for example. Like there's Miami. There is there is Tampa Bay. Orlando. There is Jacksonville, and then there's the capital near the Panhandle, Tallahassee. Like so many different cities in one state.
Yeah,
Tim and Dave, have you two ever actually? This is going to sound absolutely cooked. Maybe it's like a Queenslander thing, right? Have you ever travelled anywhere to like a mate's house where you're not actually able to get there unless you've got a chainsaw in the back of your truck?
No.
So here's the thing, right? So when we talk about like going out bush, right? So when you say let's go out to Toowoomba, or let's go even further out, the thing is like there's no resources there. So like I was talking about that other property that I've got, right? So you can't reach it unless you've got a 4-wheel drive, like a real proper, like a muddy 4-wheel drive, right?
Yeah.
The only communication you got with the outside world is UHF radio, so there's no phone reception.
Get a Starlink, you'll be right.
And the only way, and you literally cannot get to the block. So the drive there along a fire trail, it's about 40 k's along a fire trail. You've got to have a chainsaw, because what might actually happen, right, is there's a tree that's felled on the road. You might not actually be able to turn around, especially if it's muddy. So you got to bust out the chainsaw up. And there's so many people, they're like, let's like start building out in the bush. But here's the thing, and this comes back to what I said before, which is like the Greens and these socialists, they can't compare Australia to these built up European countries, because like we just don't have 1,000 years of infrastructure, right? Like there's and this comes like if there's been places I've driven, like if you go out to somewhere like say Cooper Pedy, or you go out to somewhere like Lightning Ridge or like Milparinka, or even if you follow like the Burke and Wills track, like I was talking about Burke and Wills before. And sometimes the difference between life and death is if you've got a jerry can of petrol on board, literally like Mad Max, like Silverton, right? The Silverton, it's a great town if you ever go there. And they just don't get that, because that's Australia and that's our way of life. And some people really need to have those sorts of resources in order to live here.
Yeah, and look, I think I'm not saying all of a sudden let's make sure we've got a 4-lane highway to Maddie's Gold Block, but if you do have bigger hub centres out in the regions, and so I don't know my Queensland geography as well, but like here in New South Wales, if you think about your Dubbos or your Oranges or your Woggers, go to Perth, your Kalgoorlies and your Bustletons and your Esperances and your Albanese and so on. There's places around, like in Victoria is a bit smaller than the bigger states, but I mean even in there you've got your where was the Gold Rush town?
Ballarat and Bendigo.
Ballarat, places like that are a few hours out of Melbourne and those sorts of areas, right?
Our second biggest city, which is not too far from Melbourne.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, Victoria's a little. I don't know it well, but those areas that actually have some built-up population area, they could be invested in. They could build out more. They could have a bit more urban sprawl out there versus having the vertical sprawl here in the CBDs and the city areas. So and attract people out there, which would then the supply and demand thing, Dusty. You said it is a supply and demand issue. If we can move the demand out of the 5 capitals, out into the country regional areas and give people a different the tree change lifestyle there. There's a lot to go there. But
do you think we're going to get to a future like I want to be an optimist and I want to say,
What
like,
happened to your audio,
we've
Dusty?
got the smartphone and this is incredible. We didn't have it, for so long, and now I've got it. Living proof things radically change and improve our lives. What we're streaming on tonight. So like, we could have bullet trains go up the Queensland coast, all them regional city towns become larger cities. Then like. Here's a concept. You could have an electric driving car, and where you go, like in the past, you could live an hour and a half away from your work, and you could just sit in. It drives you to work. You don't have to fucking drive. You can watch a movie. You know what I mean? You could start work earlier, finish work early. You're still back at home by 3 o'clock.
That's Elon Musk's dream with the self-driving Teslas, right? Like the personal vehicles. No one needs to own a like. Elon, as much as he's a friend of,
it doesn't have to be that utopian. Like you probably could still drive it. You should still be able to drive it, and you should still be able to know how to drive. And you know what I mean? Like we don't have to go full retard, but there can be a win-win future where we go like, I could still drive the car, but fuck it, I'm gonna watch.
Yeah, that's where I worry about Elon Musk.
Sit here and do nothing.
Elon Musk, he see like all the conservatives, everyone go, yeah, he helped get Trump in, yeah, Elon Musk, but he's also the EV guy, the self-driving car guy, the guy that says we're gonna have little pods of self-driving vehicles. You won't need to own a car. Like he's halfway to the WEF.
The robots, Optimus,
right? Like
he wants to do
the Neuralink stuff. Like there's a heap of stuff that scares the crap out of me.
He wants to do what Klaus Schwab talked about recently, mastering the future. That's what Elon Musk wants to do with Tesla, the cars, Starlink, the internet that can be accessible anywhere in the world, SpaceX.
What happens if you had
the
like
robots?
a tiny home, like you had this tiny home concept, and you were like, it's dirt cheap to buy. We could make it dirt cheap.
I've got a
single bedroom.
No, a mate of mine's selling them. Lux Pod Affordable Living, $99K delivered in Australia. $99K for like a big sort of like a 20-foot or whatever thing, like this tiny home. They'll deliver it, fit it out, little kitchenette, bedroom, everything. 99 grand.
Nice.
At the moment.
Bedroom apartment, essentially. Yep. You plumb it in, you plug the power in. So it might be another 20 grand. To get it plugged in, so 120, you get that fucking thing sorted.
And it's got water,
sewage,
bathrooms,
power, fucking
laundry.
Aircon. But like, so there's the future where we go, right, we can go, we've got a pod. You finish school, you buy a dirt cheap pod if it's 120 grand to build the fucking thing, you still got to buy the land. So the land's smaller. It's 200 grand for the block. You get a $300,000 mortgage for a shitty pod. You know what I mean? We're back to fucking half your wage going on that mortgage. But when we go to have children, you need a 3-bedroom house and you want to have 3 kids. You know what I mean? So like these are like, we have to like build it out. Like, you know what I mean? Like right. When you could build I bought a Queenslander. I built a granny flat underneath. Me and my brother bought it together. I was like, I'm not confident enough to buy a house on my own. Got me older brother. Let's buy it together. Built a granny flat underneath. Once we lived together, and years down the track, we had enough money me and my missus bought this house off me and my brother, and he bought his own home. You know, like this is the way we did it.
Yeah.
And working a second job and saving up for that deposit. So this is what young people need to do. You need to work. I worked my guts out. I bought a home with
the affordability, mate. Because I mean, like, and Matt Barry's done the math. He reckons it takes 47 years to get a deposit on the average house in Australia now. 47 years to earn the deposit, by which then there's going to have another zero on it. And so as you're retiring, you'll be ready to buy your house. And then you've got to have a 30-year mortgage on it. Like,
but if I was 18 now, finishing school, I'd be like, there's that 1-bedroom apartment, and it's
Dusty,
280 grand. It's 300
I've
grand.
shared the
I would be
link
like,
that
fuck, I'm just gonna
they
buy
put in
that.
the chat. The Lux Pod. See if
Yeah, the
see if you
Lux.
can share that. We'll have a look at it.
How far? Did someone put a?
It's in the private chat, mate.
Yeah, but I've already shared it in. You should be able to put my share screen
Oh,
on
here
the
we go.
screen.
The Lux
What a bunch of
Pod.
puffs.
Oh yeah, these guys here. Oh, Angus Taylor there.
Yeah, that's my mate on the right, and Andrew Gray from the Awakened Aussies on the right there. He's a top dude. I don't know his mate on the left.
Yes,
but,
yeah,
this
I
thing's
mean,
sweet.
they look nice.
It's
So
like
the
a
idea
caravan,
is,
like a nice caravan.
Yeah.
so the idea is because it's so cheap. You get, if you've got like parents with a bigger block or a mate or friends, like you said, Dusty, you get this put on the block while you continue to save, but then you're paying down the block. This thing costs you barely anything, relatively speaking. So you've got a house to live in while you're paying down a block, and then in the future you can look to build, or maybe depending on planning laws, you can put this on your block rather than someone else's place. But it gets you started with something. And look, they're talking to Angus Taylor because like they're affordable home solutions. Like if the government wants to just grant at them and help them, provide some supply. They're running a business here too. It's on charity, but
Well, like I was said to my missus, I'm like, we want to have another kid, so we want to have 3 at least. And I'm like, when they're in high school, we're gonna live in the granny flat, and these little bastards can live upstairs. And hopefully, they stick around and do a university degree or get a trade, and invest in their career. But then, like at that point, how do you get these kids, that next generation, and you go, oh, we're gonna chuck a couple pods in the backyard, like. You know what I mean? Like,
it'd be good for a studio like Tim Pool does.
Yeah.
Our plan is when our kids are older, me, missus, and I, we're going to do the grey nomad thing. So we're going to do the motorhome, and the kids will stay in the house rent free, and go to uni and study and stack the cash, whatever they need, and we're just going to piss off and go bush, go metal detecting.
You'll get your chainsaw out and you'll go pan for gold.
That's exactly the plan. That's exactly.
Honestly, I reckon I could build this thing for 30 grand, easy, 25. If you could deregulate it, like that's just a shipping container. That's a $4,000 shipping container, and you're fitting it out. Like it's a $15,000 job, man.
You never worked on a shipping container, have you, Dusty?
Yeah, you get the oxy torch out and you blow you just
spoken like a true concreter.
There's no such thing as a straight line in a used shipping container, mate.
Yeah, you don't need it. You can frame it up, bro. You frame it up on the inside and you jib rock it, and you make it look like a normal house. You fit windows.
Yeah, you can take the source off the screen now, Dusty.
You bolt them together.
There's a bit of reading that I've actually done previously.
Australia Talk is backstage.
You've got a 5th player.
Oh, cool. Bring him on.
Introducing our 5th player.
Well, the issue, like you said, is the regulations, right?
Hang on, let me introduce the man.
Yeah, sorry, I've wrecked your intro.
Sake. Benjamin from Australian Talk recently got paid from Dusty $500 that he didn't pay him for 3 months or something like that. How you going, mate?
Dusty.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. Have you got me?
We've got you. You sounding clear and excellent.
That's good.
Sounds shit.
Yeah, good evening, gentlemen. Yeah, thanks for that as well, mate. Yeah, I completely forgot about it, to tell you the truth, bro.
I almost got fired, bro, or I might be fired from Sensor TV. So I finally got paid after 3 months of no pay. So
that's
sorry for fucking you around, bro. We flew down to Melbourne and Benny paid for his own plane ticket.
Imagine that. I paid for my own plane ticket, man. I paid for my own plane ticket, damn it.
Well, yeah. No, I don't know.
No, it was good.
There's a bit of a story to it, but we won't get. You know what I mean?
No,
how deep do we go into that story? It was.
No, we won't. We'll protect the guilty. We'll protect the guilty.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have to name them here.
No, name names. How you going? You look like you're tanned up.
Yeah, I've been out there, mate. I've been jet skiing, doing a couple of things, so it's been pretty good. I really like the conversation you boys were just engaged in. Actually, serious options for people to be able to get into the housing market.
The Lux pod.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you, it's an option. There's plenty of young blokes that would kick into it. If it's 100 G's, that's $500 a week for 4 years. So if they get into it at 19 or 20, they're going to be settled by the time they're 24. It's not wasted. I think there's going to be a good turnaround with it as well. I think there's a coming market to them that would always like it because guys are always turning 18, 19, 20 anyway. And it's cost prohibitive for them to get involved. We'd need it in, I guess, close proximity to somewhere for them. That's why it was also relevant for you guys to raise the self-driving vehicles. Even if it meant you're hopping your car and then you can have a snooze for an hour on the way to work, a snooze for an hour on the way home from work.
That's why I don't mind the train. The train's all right. I'd rather an hour commute on the train than a 30-minute drive back and forth every day because at least the train you can do what you like.
But
the
if
car,
you're in your own self-driving car and you can literally go beep, 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 and go and have 2 hours sleep, you go jump in your car at 3 a.m. in the morning, you get to work at 6 a.m., and you tell your boss, hey, mate, you're knocking off at 2, you're home by 4 in the afternoon. And it's almost like your missus and kids are out on the farm where it's cheap as chips. And as far as what they can see, you're there a normal amount of time as any other person. Like that could work.
That was Mad Men, right? I remember watching that back in the 50s. John Draper had his house out in Jersey, and he'd go in the city, work in the city for the week, and he had the money that he could have a nice little apartment in the city as well. But the lower execs, they were catching the train in and out every day until they could do that. They were sort of commuting in.
The train, you have less stress about, well, unless there's a mentally ill person on the train. But you don't have to worry about parking. You just arrive there.
I was on the train. This is a good train story. I went to Schoolies when I was 17, right? Train's absolutely packed. There's 2 Aborigines, blind drunk, like domestic violence on the train. She's punching the bloke, right? And you know how you have like the 4 seats facing each other? So they're having a full DV and the seats directly in front of them are empty because no one wants to sit there. And I just watched the Sheila punch the shit out of her husband, both blind drunk. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to stand for an hour and a half train ride. And I just sat right in front of them. I just sat there staring at them. Like I didn't give a fuck.
Well, that's one aspect of it. So the train seats, they've got to be significantly more comfortable than what they are now. I know they manufacture them to be long wearing, but in reality, they're backside gets sore after half an hour.
The Queensland rail is pretty shit. I mean,
they give you free Wi-Fi. You get 500 MB, and then it sends you a message to say, "Oh, sorry, you've watched a 3-minute YouTube clip. You've gone over your daily limit. Check back in with us in about 4 or 6 hours."
Read the mainstream news for about 2 hours and get indoctrinated.
You can, but so many of the news websites now have pop-up ads and everything as well, so that eats up the 500 MB as well. It's ridiculous. It should be unlimited, but also in regards to the self-driving cars, okay, so young blokes, they want to get them out there. We want them to live in remote areas. They want to drop 100K on the container. Good. $500 a week. Yeah, no dramas. They can afford that because that's basically market rent anywhere for them. But then we're talking about, okay, they've got to get a Tesla as well. That's an extra 70 on top.
And you need solar panels to power the fucking thing to drive you to and from work.
Good news though, Albo assured us that you can charge it at night time with the solar panels as well, which is good.
So a realistic approach to it as well. And I know there's lots of arguments against why this is even in fact plausible, but we're talking about solutions here. It needs to be an immediate solution.
Yeah.
So one of the impediments to people actually being able to build their own house even is because they've got to pay 400 or 500 grand for a block of land, man. Benny, I was out in Ipswich a couple of days ago, bro. I was out there and I thought, I'm just going to check out some of the property prices out here. Man, people are dropping 1.2 for a place out in Ipswich. Yeah. And I thought, this is insane. And
That-
like an average house was going to be 700 still. And they had blocks of land out in the middle of nowhere there, and the blocks of land were 400K. So
Yeah.
the quickest solution to this is when the government releases these parcels of land. The developers may not like it, of course. You're only going to get a 370 square meter block anyway.
There's,
But
there's some nuance to that though, Benny. So I'll give you here's my 2 cents on that. So obviously I'm out at IPI as well. Now, 1.2 mil, that you'd probably be looking at like a proper, Federation wraparound veranda, fully restored.
It was a proper Queenslander. Yeah, it was a nice joint.
But here's the other nuance, right? So there's a suburb at the moment called Black Soil, and the council's recently released that land to build on, right? But the problem is there's no infrastructure there. So there's like a few large sort of farm or ex-farm, big like 4,000, 5,000 square meter blocks there, but they're all on septic. There's almost no electricity grid, and there's no sewage, there's no water either. And so what happens is the big problem is like when they release these parcels of land, and a lot of people forget about this, is they need to build all that supporting infrastructure as well. So like they need the water, they need the sewage, they need the power, and they need everything there first before they build the properties. Now, what happened, right, was Ipswich City Council learned this lesson the hard way. So a few years ago, they released land and they built a suburb called Ripley, which Dusty would probably know well. Now, out at Ripley, they built all these new properties, right? But they didn't actually consider the traffic. So they said, like, there's going to be an extra 5,000, there's going to be an extra 10,000 people who move into the suburb. There was no traffic lights and there was no amenities, right? So to live in Ripley, people were spending like $400,000 plus to live in this suburb, and they still had to drive 10-15 minutes to the supermarket, and it used to take them 40 minutes on the off ramp because there was no traffic lights. So it's one thing to say like you can easily release land, but it's actually not easy to release land because you have all this sort of supporting infrastructure to go with it.
And Ripley's now double. Like Ripley is 700,000.
Yeah, I'm right there with you with the infrastructure stuff. So that's a given. That needs to be done because it's just absurd for
We have
people not to be able to get places. But
We
yeah,
have new
what I was
housing
getting
estates.
to, sorry, Tim, just wait 1 sec. So what I was getting to is the government needs to bite the bullet and just say, listen, the block of land is free. If you're a married bloke, if you get married and you start turning your wife into a baby factory, if you're going to be a serious contributor, you've been working. Okay, that block of land, it's only a stock standard block, but that's free. That's not 400 grand. So your 400 or 500 goes for the building on that land. And that's the birthright, gentlemen.
Imagine if you deregulate it and you could have septic and you could have solar and battery and be off grid. You don't even need a grid. You know what I mean?
That would add to the building. That would add to the building cost though, Dusty. So you might not have the infrastructure, but then obviously that
I
would
reckon
the cost of the
cheaper.
building.
I reckon that would be cheaper than building the infrastructure. Would it be cheaper? Like, I got 10 kilowatts on my roof for $5,800. This was 3 months ago. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Batteries I'm looking at is about $5.5 grand. I'm thinking.
Do they do your deal as well, interest free on that? You didn't have to stump up front, did you?
Oh, I paid up front, but there was interest only. Interest free, sorry. Payment plan sort of. There's sort of like is built-in fees, but it's not, it's like a transaction fee of $10 per month, they were saying, you know what I mean? But I couldn't, even if I buy batteries, they won't let me go off grid. I can't go like, fuck you, and then end being hooked up to the grid. Like I've got water tanks. You know what I mean? I've spoken to the Libertarian Party and the Ipswich City Council at like a community forum, and I was like, could we have a possibility to allow people to fully go off grid on their property and your rates bill would drop. Half your power bill is hookup. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So there's all these like things going on that we just don't have legally. You just can't do it. You know what I mean? Some shires do have septic tanks. So that's pretty good for some areas.
Yeah, I won't go too much off on a tangent, but we have done. We actually did that here, Dusty. So because we got the tank water as well, because we didn't want fluoride in our water, and so I actually contacted a plumber to plumb our rainwater tanks into the house water, and I was actually told that I might cop a massive fine because if my rainwater tank gets contaminated, so there's something in the water that's contaminated and it becomes poisonous. If that gets backflow and goes back out to the water meter and poisons all my neighbors, I'm going to cop a massive fine. And I said, well, why don't we put a backflow valve there? And the plumber's like, no, I'm not going to touch it with a 10-foot pole. So I was not allowed to put my house on tank water because they said you might poison the neighbors. And if I put a valve there and said, all right, I won't, you know. And they said, yeah, still not allowed to do it. And I'm like, well, that's where
you can hook up like your washing machine and your toilet and stuff. Like there's
it already is.
You can independently plumb them in, but they're not into your main. I think you have to plumb it independently, sort of. I've been looking at that too.
Yeah, Tim, what were you going to say, mate? Before I
was going to say with the infrastructure around new housing estates. So there's this real problem in particularly Melbourne's northern housing estates, maybe because they're safe Labor seats, is these new housing estates are being built with like literally one road in and out, and they all go into the main road, which then goes on to the Hume Highway, which is the only way to get into any of the rest of Melbourne, including the CBD. So you can imagine in the morning, and a lot of them don't even have traffic lights, these entries in and out. Or you sort of wonder, is it made by design so to keep people in?
Well, that's a 15-minute city goal, right?
Like imagine a housing estate where there's just one road in and out, and it's on to it's so difficult to get on the main road. And
no, I mean, like
the only way to get
when
to
we
the
think
city
like
is one freeway.
15-minute cities, we think 15-minute cities, Klaus Schwab's control freak arsehole. But like towns, I grew up in New Zealand. There were towns where legit one road in, one road out, 4,000 people, pretty much everything you need in the town. And that's the way it is over there. You know what I mean? It was literally like, fucking hour to the next town, and the next town, and another hour to the next town. And then be like a bigger town where you might go 4 times a year and fill your deep freeze and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, that's the way it was. We didn't think like that was super fucking controlling. Back then, you'd be like, there's one cop and you knew where he was at all times. You know what I mean?
The difference is, though, Dusty, the whole concept of the 15-minute cities is you kind of gated in, and there's like a tax or a toll for leaving your 15-minute zone. You were free to travel 3 hours and 2 towns up the road or whatever. That was no problem. But the issue is with the 15-minute city go, oh, no, now you're going to go out of your special economic control zone. We are going to tax you for that, and you will be charged for using the resources in someone else's special 15-minute economic zone. How dare you? And so it becomes very controlling of where you can travel, where you can do. It keeps populations in their little lanes, so to speak.
Fucking controlling. And like when we're like at this point where solar, batteries, water tanks is a real reality. Like right now, I could be more independent from the grid than any time in history.
Yeah,
I could have an electric car that's fully charged off the sun. And I've got my battery pack, I've got my fucking rainwater tank, I've got my septic tank. You know what I mean? I've never gone the route of chickens in a veggie garden, but it's actually probably
I've got chooks. Chooks are good.
More achievable now than ever. Like you've got Matty J Stagg, you've got chicken.
Got me chooks, got me veggie garden.
Yeah, and you're always telling me he's always trying to offload like. How about some fucking lovely bean sprouts. Plant these in your garden. How about a banana tree? And I'm like, bro, I'll just fucking kill them.
I
Like,
got a half a dozen banana trees for any viewers. Hey, I'll just fucking give them away. Hey, I got too many of them.
he's offloading the. He wants you to survive the apocalypse on delicious plantains.
Another cyclone could wipe them out.
They could be stolen by meth addicts in Ipswich.
Taking banana trees now. Hey, we started with what was it? We started with beach towels in Sydney down near Dave, and now we're stealing banana trees at Ipswich. Hey.
Boy, Benny, like, so I just came back from the coast. I'm super tanned. I look like Liver King. But like we've stayed in these 25-story high apartment buildings with beautiful like resort swimming pools and saunas and hot tubs and barbecue areas. And I thought in the underground car parking, there's an arcade, everything. Like, it was awesome. The building was terrific. And
Where were you, mate? What suburb?
It was Coolangatta.
Beautiful.
Near the Tweed, you know.
Yeah.
I always mix them up. But like, I thought to myself, yeah, I could live like this. I got my missus and 2 kids. We could have another kid and live in this apartment. We got a fucking sick swimming pool. Awesome families are just having barbecues. My boys going, we want to go down to the arcade. You know what I mean? It seemed like this doesn't seem too bad. And then I like that disconnect of going like, why can't Ipswich build 10, 25-story high towers with their own resort, swimming pool, barbecue areas, kids playground attached to that tower, and it's like resort luxury living. Like that you would go, what's wrong with that? That seems all right. You know what I mean? But they don't do that. They build these like shitty.
Because the soil type, Dusty.
Yeah, because it's gonna fucking. There's like a
sink. It'll sink.
There's an underground coal mine with 30,000 kilometers of tunnels underneath Ipswich. So.
And the clay. The reason why every house is on stumps is because of the clay soil. Yeah, there's reasons why they don't do high rises in Ippy here. It's not because they don't want to. It's because it'll quite literally fall over because of the soil here.
Right. There's no bedrock under. If they just keep pumping garbage into the fucking, it's like The Simpsons, bro. They just need to cram the garbage.
Australia is a hard land to tame. That's what the European settlers found out, that the soil doesn't grow like it does in Europe.
Yeah, but the principle of what Dusty's putting forward is correct, though. We can identify areas, and we could be going up like this, and they don't all have to be dog boxes, and they could be conducive to families living there. In fact, that should be a requirement. Do you have families, and you'd allocate that? You could have an in-house preschool or whatever it may be, kids club and all that type of stuff, and it'd actually be a great little community for them.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things that they call
urban sprawl.
They call that out about Sydney compared to your American cities like in New York's, etc. Like it's all commercial high rise. There's very little residential high rise in the Australian sort of CBDs. I think it's fairly widespread, other than hotels and things like that. But in the sort of core CBDs, we're very commercial focused. We don't have that residential mix like they have in some of those other countries, like the US, which completely changes the vibe of those places. And they're fully reliant on the business, and there's no culture in there because no one lives there. It's not like when you watch an American show like Friends or Frasier on something where they've got this people living and working in the city, and they don't have that. Like we're all suburban. We just come in and then we go out again. It's interesting. What do you guys think of like the libertarian ideas, like John Ruddock saying, we want to get rid of all building regulations, build as high as you like, in front of which whoever's building you like, just go nuts. Just
like Tokyo.
Just build whatever you like, wherever you like. Just if you can afford the land and the money to do the build, just do it. No red tape, no regulations. Go nuts.
Yeah, because Tokyo's got 38 million people living in it, and they have like no regulations. They have like a Toyota car manufacturing building next to a school, next to an apartment building. You know, like legit, and it's just like blah, blah, blah. and maybe it has resulted in a pretty fucked up society. Like, let's be honest, if you look at Tokyo and you're like, they're not producing families or children, and they're not even like
Australia.
shagging, they're not even like
Yeah,
rooting.
that's a problem with the culture as well.
It is, but is that a result of cramming 38 million people into? You know what I mean? Like, is that
I think it's a result of
psychological-
eating tofu and noodles, Dusty. You can't hunt kangaroo in Tokyo.
They've got to crack eggs into their noodles, just be like fucking 6 eggs and a little bit of ramen, and they end up just being like Rocky Balboa walking around.
Have you ever put an egg on your mee goreng? Like, have you cooked the
Fucking
mee goreng
delicious.
noodles, and on the packet it shows a picture of a fried egg on it? I have never done that, and I
so
never
good.
will. Really?
It's nice. It's good.
Yeah, I've done it.
No, just the noodles.
Meat. If you know any like Polynesian mates or Papua New Guineans, they get the canned corned beef, and they just like fucking dump a whole thing of canned corned beef in with their mee goreng noodles. That's why they're like fat as fuck.
Terrible.
Dusty.
It's true, and I always hit them up because they'll tell you like how to live like poor and cheap. Like, talk to your Fijian friend, and they'll be like, powdered milk, tea, sugar, mee goreng noodles, canned corned beef. That's how they roll.
I used to mix in kangaroo and broccoli with my mee goreng, and just mix it in there with a bit of chili sauce. It was great.
And you didn't even shoot that kangaroo. You went up, snapped its neck, and fucking gutted it with your own teeth.
The kangaroo was busy like eating his gold out of the river. He's like, get stuffed, kangaroo. That's my gold.
He calls them gold feet. He's just like,
Busted out me boomerang and just knocked it out, mate.
That's cultural appropriation, Matty.
you paid
Almost
an
like an oath it
Aboriginal
is.
1 VB to kill it for you.
Mate, I'm 7th generation Australian. I've got a native title on the oldest pub in Hobart because my ancestor fired the bricks for that pub, right? So I've got every right to use a boomerang as anyone else who tries to steal land in this country.
Well, this is the thing. We've got Australia Month coming up. Just to change topics. But, like Australia Month, that whole idea, I always say to everyone, like, everyone jump on board, celebrate it, use hashtag Australia Month. I hope all you guys do. Imagine the contrast is like Aboriginal people are like, you can't climb Ayers Rock, women can't play the didgeridoo, you can't climb Mount Warning, you can't do anything. They're like, follow the protocol. You can't, the whole thing is like they're shutting people out from even celebrating
it's mainly to
so their
punish
culture's
Waishi.
going to die. Like, their culture will die. They're shutting everyone out. Everyone's shut out. Australia Month, it's like, everyone, please jump on board. We want you to celebrate it. This culture will survive. Nothing will stop it. Because we want it to be like St. Patrick's Day. Everyone becomes Irish on St. Patrick's Day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Everyone is German in Oktoberfest.
Are we going to pretend to drink Foster's?
We could get a fucking carton of Foster's.
There's no Foster's. I'm cracking a Great Northern right now.
That's a Queensland beer, Dave.
We're gonna, on Australia Day, we're gonna have a huge party on the 20th, obviously 26th, Ascot Park, 12 o'clock. We're gonna do some esky racing, right? So we're gonna get 5 eskies. You're gonna have to run in pluggers, so you got to wear pluggers. It's a part of the rules. If your plugger comes off, you got to stop, put it on. If
I switched to Archies because there's no plugs anymore. Archies are brilliant. They're better for your feet, and there's no more plugs.
No, we're going pluggers, mate. I'm gonna buy 5 eskies, 5 pairs of pluggers, and you got to run with your esky up to the ice, chuck your ice in, and run back. And I'm thinking, whoever wins, I'm gonna have a VB and 1 Winnie Blue. So it's you literally are like, congratulations, and it's a warm VB and a Winnie Blue, and I'll be like, fucking, I'll part of it will be like you have to enjoy it, like you have to drink it and smoke it. But like I've never had a smoke in my life. I'd be like, shut up, Barry.
Punching darts and breaking hearts, mate.
It would be so fucking fun.
Smoking blunts and swooping cunts.
Man. How fast do you reckon you can run in a pair of pluggers? Let's be honest.
Depends on if they're fresh and dry or if my feet have been sweating. If your feet have been sweating or you just come out of the pool or something, you're screwed. But if you got dry feet, I reckon you can go all right on firm ground. It's not
People are going to
sandy.
be running, and then it'll be like, we're going to have a referee who will just be like, stop, fix your plugger, and then keep running. You know what I mean? It's going to be intense.
If you're a fan of the pluggers, Dusty, do you carry a spare plastic bread tag in your pocket?
Mate, we'll have to get
I did. I know
a bucket of bread tags just in case.
Yeah.
That'll be like cheating.
Except now they're all cardboard. You got these like crap cardboard bread tags gonna do nothing. You're the old school plastic ones.
What do you reckon, Benny? We should do we'll do like the Trinity, the Holy Trinity, and it's like beer snorkel, beer bong, shoey.
Well, that's certainly going to give an opportunity to make some content. That's for sure. I mean, you got to line them up. It's got to be all three. It's got to be a lip sip suck type, man. It's got to be like you got the salt and the lemon tequila douche. Yeah, 100%. And skateboard.
We'll be like, right, snorkel, wave the Aussie flag, beer bong, and then it's like run in your pluggers over to do, and then you've got to like do a shoey. So like make it.
Is it going to be in Ascot Park again? Is it? Because
Ascot Park. I think we've locked it in.
It is locked in.
I think it's easier for Rob McMullen and his band. There's like a good little gazebo there. So
yeah, there is. That's where he was last time. He reached out to me earlier today to ask me if I was going to be around to come along. I don't know where I'm going to be that day. I might be interstate or I might be overseas. But if I'm here, yeah, I'll definitely come along because it's promising to be a good day. Maybe before we get there, we should get into Brizzy and go do some street content with the Invasion Day people, and then get the hell out of there, and then get across to that one. The
Invasion Day people usually start pretty early, eh?
Like, can I tag along to that? I'm keen.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, I'll bring me selfie stick and mic. It'll be good.
So, Dave, in Sydney, you guys actually, the government is all on board celebrating Australia Day. Do you do is there like the boats and all this stuff? Is that still a thing in Sydney Harbour? There's like the fucking some boat.
I'm like an hour inland, man. I don't go anywhere near the harbour. It's a nightmare. I didn't go for New Year's Eve or nothing. No, but my local council's actually they're fully on board with Australia Day stuff. So I've got no issues with my local council. They even do Aussie, oi, oi, oi at the end of the citizenship ceremonies now. So
yeah, sweet. They actually did that in Ipswich. I recently got my Australian citizenship.
Yeah, so
and it was very like civic nationalist, trying to encourage the new people to be true.
I was last year when there's a big deal about it, I was walking around. There were a number of houses around the place that hung up their flags and stuff out the front. I got on board. I got my flag and had that out there, and we did an open house barbecue thing with friends in the pool and stuff. Just come around.
I think this Australia Day it's going to be like already last year, like Australia Month was a great initiative, but I think this year really in the ascendancy is that because remember all of the anti-Australian people saying, oh, it's inevitable that the date will change. Well, not anymore. The culture is to preserve it and embrace it further.
Well, welcome to countries that want back. Like I think.
And Melbourne is it like Melbourne city councils are rejecting welcome to country, like the most fucking.
It was the Melbourne Storm, i.e. the NRL team. They said they're scaling it back, so they're still going to do it like for Indigenous round and Anzac Day.
like it's reasonable to do it for an Indigenous round. You're like, cool, that's your thing. Like, awesome.
Yeah, but during the AFL final series, you had, before every final played in Melbourne, you had Uncle Colin Hunter, who is very white, doing the welcome to country, and just like, and even at the Brownlow at Crown Casino, which the Aboriginals didn't build, it was the Packer family who built that. So they're the traditional owners.
Didn't John Batman buy Melbourne anyway? Like
He did, but apparently these Indigenous academics know almost 200 years later that he ripped them off. So apparently they know more about what happened than.
And I know. Ben was on an interesting space. So probably had a very different point of view than the one we're sharing here on all of this
so
stuff.
John Batman is the traditional owner of Melbourne.
Look, I mean, it is one of those things. Like, and we talked about this earlier in the show. Mistakes were made. No one's saying that the way our ancestors did stuff was the best way or perfect or the most egalitarian and just way. But
It was pretty
ultimately, countries were conquered, lands were invaded, empires rose and fell for centuries and centuries and millennia, and now we live today, and now we are born today. And we're born in the circumstances of today. And how do we make the best decisions as our individuals? And to your point, Dusty, personal responsibility and versus socialism and communism. How do we go, you know what? I am here where I am today. How do I take some responsibility to make the best decisions for me and those around me that I can do? Or do I just want to sit there and go, oh, well, something bad happened to people that were hundreds of years ago, and so now I'm helpless?
Yeah, and judging the past through the lens of today, it's just erroneous, man. It's a fucking fool's errand. It's bullshit. They were doing it the best way they knew how back then. What was effective for them, man, and that's how they built these cities, bro.
Right
on horseback and cart, mate, with sandstone.
Can you imagine
beautiful places as well?
Have you seen the Endeavour replica here in Sydney? Like they built.
I've been on it. I've sailed on it.
At Darling Harbour.
That thing's freaking tiny. And can you imagine traveling from England to Australia in that death trap?
Yeah, it's literally like someone saying, "Oh, here's a tinny, boys. We're going to leave the GC. We're going to get up to the Barrier Reef in this, and you just
freaking insane. It's insane how many people they crammed into that thing, and they travelled for
9 months.
You got to remember, most of their food was on that as well. They didn't have desalination either. So, water, rationing, everything about it. They weren't just dropping lines over the deck every day, pulling in fish as well, man. Like, everything was on there, bro. They went through it, bro. And disease and shit as well that was on there. Those guys, they were just turfing over the dead bodies as well. Like, it was miraculous that they were able to do it. And it should be applauded that they were able to do it. And when they got here, there was nothing here as well, man.
The land wanted to kill them. The people wanted to kill them.
Yeah, well, they survived on sauerkraut for, what was it, 2 years at a time or something.
That's those good Germans, mate. They're resilient people, those Germans. No, but no joke. So imagine if anyone just went and dropped us tomorrow out in the middle of the outback somewhere. There's 500 acres in each direction. They say, there you go. Yeah. That's yours. Now do something with it. We'd look and go,
that would be a reality TV show.
That's what my ancestor did. That's exactly what my ancestor. Well, not 500 acres, but he had about 200 acres in eastern Victoria. That's exactly what he did.
Gentlemen, no joke. So I was able to recently get a hold of a diary which was written by my great grandfather, and they were just writing down. He was writing down at the end of every day what it was like, an average day back in Australia in like 1876. For these people. So what I did, because every time I was opened up, it was falling apart, I took it somewhere and said, can you type up this for me? So they typed it up for me. I might retrieve just one of those daily write-ins. Give me a minute. And I'll read to you what life was like back then and how pleasurable life was and just the simplest things, something that we'd go, like, man, I can go and grab 50 of those from the supermarket right now.
While you bring that up, I'll tell the story about my great-grandfather. So my grandfather told the story about his dad. They wanted to expand the house, so he found some lumber that was lying around and got that. And they got chicken wire and put chicken wire around the lumber And then he got like old flour bags and like sort of whitewash sort of like pasted these flour bags to the chicken wire to sort of effectively plaster the outside of this chicken wire to build an extra room on the house so they had some more space. That's what they were doing 120 odd years ago.
That's what
you
I'm
didn't
doing
have
now in
regulations
2024.
fucking that. Like regulations now, you couldn't do that. Like I looked up that I want to build a carport, and they're like, oh no, fucking Ipswich City Council can't, like, all these rules to build a carport. I'm like, bro, if I can't build a carport without the fucking council approval, we are fucked.
Yeah.
And that's where some libertarian ideas.
Yeah.
I do agree with
But back then, the
your
ingenuity.
great granddad wasn't necessarily a libertarian, but he just
The
chopped
survival
down
instinct.
trees and fucking
He
went
used
for
what he
it.
could find, and he made the best of what he could do, and that's how he supported his family, just with his own two hands, just building this thing out of nothing. Anyway, wait, have you got your diary there, Ben?
Yeah, I pulled out like there's heaps of pages, but I'll roll with one of them.
Sweet.
And this is timely as well because this was actually sent. This is one brother who was in Western Australia sending a letter to his other brother who was in Druin in Victoria, Tim. So Druin is like, mate, it's still archaic. That place is just the boondocks. Like,
Yeah, that's
fucking nothing
in
there.
West Gippsland.
Yeah, like it's literally like out there. So this was a Christmas letter he sent to him in 1875. James had sent it to his brother Jack. And he's saying, I would love to see old Gippsland with its mud and its rain. I would like to see the old place and the old folks once again. I would like to sit on the old man's hob with a big black log burning bright. And the dewdrops of the shingles, I would sit and pitch all night. I would like to walk through the old cow yard with mud up to my knees and just glance at the old pigsty as I scrape my boots with ease. And then for a stroll in the garden, telling a tale to Dad, picking some fruit from the old apple tree that was planted when I was a lad. And last, a drink from the cool spring that lies at the foot of the hill. Boys, I can't wait till I get back to this place and see you, love you still. Merry Christmas. And that was that. So he's talking about mud up to his knees, and just an apple tree was the most amazing thing. He couldn't wait to get back and have an apple from his tree, right? He was in Western Australia in 1875. I don't know what the fuck that would have been like. That would have been hardcore, man.
All right.
And
now
so
we use ChatGPT to write poems like that, man.
and so I got another one here. And this is from August 1st, 1876. And he says, we are up when the stars are shining and laugh the sun to scorn, when the winter winds are sighing before the break of dawn, while the big Scotch thistle bows its head before the piercing wind, and the cocky looking up to see if you are up through the hole in your window. And then you bring the cows in, at least all you can find, and the cocky strolls in after you with the stragglers left behind. At last the milking's over and the separating done. The pigs and calves must then be fed, but this is only fun. For you're working in the paddock as long as it is light, with never a thought of knocking off until the sun is out of sight. At last, when the cow time does arrive, you hail it with delight, and in a fit of gratitude you bid the fields good night. Again the milking is over, and the feeding done once more. The cocky says it's tea time, and he meets you at the door. And when you've had a good substantial supper, as all good cockies men did, the hands of the clock are pointing around 10:30. Again the cocky greets you with a merry little laugh. I want you for an hour or so to help me cut some chaff. And then you're up again in the morning before the break of dawn. Your wages just $0.25 a day. But boys, it was good pay. So they're talking about a simplicity, man. They're talking about that the luxury of that time back then was literally to be able to get some milk from your cow, bro. And
That's
I guess,
Australian.
yeah, but that was like, that was the thing that got them by. And as he says, they were up when the stars are shining, and they wouldn't leave until the sun went down. They were eating supper at 10:30 at night, man. These guys were working the land. They were absolutely hardcore. I don't think we've got us in it. I don't think we've got it in us, guys. I think it'd break us. I know you're a concreter, Dusty.
Mm.
That's hardcore work, and we know guys out there that are hard workers. But if you had to toil every single day and play your own fields, and if you didn't have a draft horse, man,
We take our
you
time
were
these days, concrete.
screwed.
It's like we're cruising, bro. Like we don't work hard anymore. You're almost like we actually actively encourage each other. Like, well, cunt, you're gonna fucking cut. You know what I mean? You're gonna get heat stroke. So we.
And I'm guessing these guys thought they were rich as well. Like they must have considered themselves rich because they had pigs, they had calves, obviously they had chickens.
By that time,
They're able to have
yes.
milk or whatever. So they were doing really, really well.
Mm.
But it's still hardcore, man. We've got refrigeration, gentlemen.
Well, for now,
We've got
I mean,
aircon.
while-
We've got
while we-
power,
while
man.
we have
We've
a
got
working
power,
power
bro.
grid. For now, I mean, it feels like they want to get us back to some of that, like subsistence farming, where everyone has to work to get their own milk and to get their own apple off their own tree. Like it feels like we are devolving as a society a little bit. We've sort of hit this peak society, and now there's all these active plans to sort of get us to go down the other side of the hill.
Well, it's just like division of labor. Like
It's-
I just pour slabs. That's all I do. And I'm like, my hot water tank fucked up the other day, and I'm like, fucking get me a plumber.
Well, that's
Well,
it. I mean,
like,
specialization
I
at
don't have
scale. Like,
I can't have a
as
day off to go to Bunnings to get a tank to bring it home to hook it up. Like I don't have time. I'm
Right.
fucking locked into this contract, and I got to fulfill. Like you know what I mean? So I end up paying someone probably, and then I've got like I'm renting my granny flat out. I got kids. I'm like, I need fucking hot water now, mate. I need hot water, and he's like, oh, it'll be an extra $1,000 to do it tomorrow than it would be if you can wait a week. You know what I mean? So you're like, I'm getting fucked in the ass, but I can't do it myself because I don't have time. It's just this is reality.
And that's the
No.
other thing as well, man. All those blokes back then, like from those writings, because I've gone through it quite a bit, and they got stories of being sent off to war when they were 14 and everything like that, and guys faking their age, saying they were 16 so they get sent off to World War I and all this type of shit, which is just insane. They were hopping on the boats you were talking about before. They were going to the other side of the world, which they never knew, man. It was meant to be like some type of cultural expedition for them. It was like, I'm going overseas. Here's your rifle. Here you go. Take your little basket of, fruit, and, you might have a hip flask or something like that to carry some water in. But it was hardcore, but they were all self-reliant. If anything broke, they could all fix it as well, man. They were built
everything
differently
had
back then, man. They were built differently.
Everything had 3 parts though, like, and only one of them moved.
Yeah,
Things
nut
were
and bolt
simpler then.
technology, right?
Right? Like, I mean, the used to be able to pop open the hood of your car, and you could, spin the top off, rip it off, see the air filter, like you could do a lot of stuff easily yourself. Now you can't. The cars are there's so much computerization and miniaturization, and like it's just you're screwed. You've got to take it to a professional.
Fucking hand. Like I've got to take my front driver's wheel off to get to the sun plug to service my car. Like who invented that? My last Hilux, it was just I could jump under there and I'm done. I might servicing and just put my oil filter from pop the hood, and I could do it. I could reach under and service my car, and
We're all familiar with Benny. We're all familiar with the footage that we see coming out of Afghanistan. You got the Taliban, and they're getting around in 40-year-old Hiluxes that are just shot up to shit, man. But those things are still rolling. And I've recently been watching videos of Cuba as well. And in Cuba, obviously, because of the embargo, they're rolling with American muscle cars from back in the 50s, bro, still. And these things are still chugging along. They're doing their thing. They can all be serviced. They've got such an abundance of them. It doesn't matter if they break down. They're getting parts off one. It doesn't matter if another one's smashed. They grab panels off that.
Still, Afghanistan and Cuba, you wouldn't want to live there.
I don't know. They keep their women in line over in Afghanistan. In Cuba, they got excellent women and good dancing.
And good cigars.
But in all seriousness, of course, Tim, yeah, we don't want to be them, but there is an aspect of life now which deprives the ordinary man to be able to rectify issues which arise. And as Ben was saying, if he has got to get it fixed quickly, it costs him an arm and leg and pretty much destroys him for an entire week, mate.
Because we're all a specialized society. There's so many occupations that are so specialized now, and well, the most obvious example is healthcare, where you have to get a referral to see this IST specialist, and like they've got a 6-month waiting list. So
yeah, man, my fucking hip, like my hip's been sore as fuck, and then they go and send me to get an ultrasound, and then I get back, my doc goes, "Oh, we'll pump a fucking cortisone into it," and I'm like, "Giddy up, let's go, fucking go." Hit up the same. He gives me the referral. I go ring them. Oh yeah, let's go boot it up. Nah, the doc there rings me back, says we want a MRI of the hip, and I'm like thinking, fuck, it's like 2 weeks before Christmas. I can't have another legit. I'm like, I can't leave early to go get an MRI because I've already had time off for this and that, leaving early. So I ended up just going, fuck this, and Google and YouTube and looking up. And I pretty much fixed my hip just with diet and exercise and, you know what I mean, like different ways of fixing my hip. Ice packs and blah, blah, blah. But I'm thinking, like, these doctors, they're pretty fucked, man. Like, they didn't even go like, hey, mate, there's other things you could do to improve this. They tried to give me anti-inflammatories and painkillers and, like, you know what I mean? They didn't say, like, you could do these stretches, you could massage it, you could put heat packs on it, you can get fucking physio cream. That's pretty much what I've done. And I'm like, man, it's pretty much healed. Like, these cunts wanted to go, we need a fucking MRI and fucking chuck fucking cortisone in there. Like, is that right? Like, to me, that doesn't seem right, especially that I think I've fixed it myself.
Getting a bit. I reckon it might be time to start wrapping up, Dusty.
Wait a second. Have you guys talked about Ray Gun suing the comedy club for $10,000 for illegal fees?
Fuck her. She's a dickhead.
Yeah, I even heard like those who are sympathetic to her story have all turned on her, because the money from the satire musical was meant to go to a women's shelter.
Did she pocket them or what?
No,
Well,
she's suing
them.
She waged legal proceedings against them. She tried to have it shut down. She sent a cease and desist, so she got a legal team to do that. She put through a bullshit excuse to say that it was infringing upon her copyright and her trademark and all this nonsense. When in reality, you're allowed to do parody in Australia under law.
Yeah, and plus, didn't those dancers, didn't like Chris Lilly and Jane Turner do them first?
Yeah, but also the Warnie. You had the Shane Warne musical, which was a piss take on him and everything. He took it in good faith. Even Stephen Bradbury, mate, fallen over in the Winter Olympics. Or no, the other competitors in the final all fell over. They took it. They skittled themselves. He stood up, just strolled past, and was like, "Yeah, man, I just won the gold or whatever." And that was cool. He's gone on to do marvelous things from there. Everyone knew he shouldn't have truly won, but it didn't matter. He appreciated the significance of it, and he lent into the larrikin aspect of it, right? And he's gone and do good things. But in regards to Ray Gun, she sent her team there. They sent a cease and desist. They told the girl to cancel it on the evening it was meant to be taking place. As Tim said correctly, there was going to be money raised. It was meant to be going to a women's shelter. It was only about $500, but anyway, it didn't matter. It was just meant to be opening night to see if it was gained some traction, which it would have. And now there's even more interest in it than ever before. And people will definitely support that girl going forward. So they cancelled it. That fell over. And now what's happened is, because that bitch Raygun, that malignant cunt, I should correctly say, Raygun, that atrocious dancer, Ray Gunn, that fucking radical leftist Marxist who got a doctorate in fucking breakdancing, Ray Gunn, that bitch who deprived a good young Aussie girl from that spot in the Olympics, Ray Gunn. Pardon my French, Benny.
She would have given me better advice on my hip than the local doctor, but
Yeah, so anyway, now that she's obviously got the legal bill for 10 grand for putting forward this ridiculous notion in the first place, trying to shut him down and deprive this lady from actually conducting her profession in comedy and coming against the comedy club, she's like, well, I'm not footing this bill. So she sent the $10,000 bill, a demand letter to the owner of the comedy club. And he's like, dude, if I have to pay this is going to send me broke. I'm not some huge comedy club. I haven't got millions of dollars here. This is going to cost me a fortune even if I try to fight it. So, yeah, the tide has turned against her. And that bloke who owns a comedy club, he's reached out now. He made a public statement saying, look, if anyone out there in the legal fraternity would like to assist me with this, by all means, I'd appreciate your help. And there has been some offers made to him that a couple of big top-notch guys, some legal eagles, mate, they're going to come and help him out pro bono. And, yeah, we'll be able to see it go forward. But, yeah, that Ray Gunn, mate, she's a piece of work, gentlemen. A piece of work. Un-Australian, downright un-Australian, mate.
Add
don't
Dave
think
back
you
in,
bad
Dusty.
about it, she'll sue ya.
Unbelievable. Just
I
disgrace.
think Dave's here again, Dusty.
Yeah, you're supposed to be running the show, Dusty.
Mate. This
Come
is
on,
a
champ.
it, lads. I should
I
be fine.
rebooted
I
my laptop and everything. The musical's back on. It's called Breaking now. Instead of called Ray Gun the musical, it's called Breaking the musical, apparently. And so that where they're getting away the
Yeah, good on them. There'll be more interest
Flash.
now. They'll
Man,
feel like-
it's going to sell out. It's going to go bonkers. Dusty, we've got to get to
Stars
it,
in
man.
the
Yeah,
Defend.
I'd be keen.
We should go there opening night, bro, and literally do street talk there as well, mate.
Yeah.
It's
People
going to
would
be awesome.
That'd be fucking sick.
and everyone's going to be dressed up as her, doing the moves and be like, sue me, I dare
She
you.
tried to trademark the kangaroo dance, bro. The Wiggles were
Make
doing
a
that 20 years
scarecrow of
ago.
her.
She was
Make
claiming
a scarecrow of her for Australia Day and like burn it. Like
she
burn her
was
like a
claiming
witch.
that her reputation had undergone irreparable harm because they were making this parody musical about her. I'm like, I think your reputation went through harm because you dance like a deranged mental patient.
A bit
remember-
harsh, Dave. That was a bit harsh, mate.
Oh, sorry. I should have described her more like Benny there.
Katie Hopkins did a hilarious Ray Gun parody dance. She said she carried on like an epileptic, and I can say that since I'm epileptic and had to have half my skull removed because of my epilepsy.
Fuck. I think we'll wrap it up, gentlemen. Where can we follow everyone? Does everyone want to do that little spindle?
Matty
We'll just go to
Joyce,
Dave right now. Just go to Dave right now. You'll find him. He's out there.
Dave
man.
right
Dave right
now.
now.
Right.
He's making an
Dave.
impact. He's getting stuck right in as well. So onwards and upwards to you, Dave. Continue doing your stuff, man.
He's
Thanks,
an
man. It's good
incredible
stuff.
middle-aged man with 2 children and a bright future.
He's Dave.
He's huge.
He's Dave right now. He's Dave all the time. He was
opinionated.
Dave yesterday. He's Dave tomorrow, but he's also Dave right now.
Fucking hates that.
Isn't it also like,
What's their name again?
what is that?
Hates.
On those dating
Reagan.
websites, you say, I'm available right now.
Dave is famous for hating the guts of some stupid breakdancing slut.
I prefer to use the term retarded breakdancer.
You can, all my handles are at Wilmsfront, x.com/Wilmsfront.
Tim Wilms, the amazing news reporter who's been at it for years and fucking every cunt loves him. Thanks for not shaving your chest hair, Tim Wilms.
Oh, we almost got through a whole show without mentioning it.
Can I make I want to make a special shout out to the Persian rug on Tim's chest, actually.
He's an Italian baby
I'm not, I'm German.
with Italian blood.
No.
Want to make a special
With a
shout out to the
Jewish-
German
A
rug on his
Jewish
chest.
grandmother, like Adolf Hitler.
It actually signifies masculinity for you, Tim. So don't worry about these guys taking the piss. They're just jealous, mate. They're jealous.
Bro, I'm the hairiest cunt here, let's face it. I'm just jealous, Tim. I reckon you could probably outgrow my beard. I only see potential in you.
I get 5 o'clock shadow really quickly.
Powerful.
Do you get 9 a.m. shadow?
No, but in all seriousness, when's the show been announced for? When are they going to kick that off? Do you have any details on that? Just offhand or rough timeline? Was it next year proposed, and was it originally meant to take place in Sydney? I'm just pulling it up here. It says Kinsellas, Kinselas. So where's that? Was it in Sydney that was meant to take place originally?
About the breaking thing?
Yeah.
The poster I'm looking at says Adelaide 28th of Feb to the 2nd of March, Melbourne in April. It's called Breaking the Musical.
We're all flying to Adelaide for the day.
The City of Churches.
Just look up on X, just search Breaking the Musical, and you'll find heaps of people talking about it, news articles and stuff.
Yeah,
All
I
five of us
think that's a
will
good
fucking
one. I think it's
stand up.
worthwhile us getting there, Benny. I think that'll be awesome to get there, mate.
Only $500 should get you there and back, boys. Just do an all-nighter. Red eye.
Yeah. We'll stay the night, mate. You got to stay the night because it's going to be a good night. It'll get pretty wild afterwards. A couple of pubs and that there. It's not a bad little joint.
Radelaide.
Yeah, if you got to bring the rest of the mob with you, Dusty, I could probably get you sorted with some accommodation. I've got some friends over there. They got some reasonable sized houses with a couple of guest rooms as well. So yeah, we'll figure it out. I think we should get there though in support. And by arriving there, we're actually not supporting the act as much as we are giving 2 middle fingers to Ray Gunn herself.
Ray cunt. I just came up with that then.
I'll send you out, gentlemen.
Dusty, before you go, 2 questions. Is my mic got like a weird gurgling like noise to it? My fallback.
Yeah, it's got
underwater.
interference.
Yeah, since I rebooted, I've got this weird. I don't know what's going on. And second, Dusty, is your camera mirrored, or do you actually always have your flag up backwards?
That's the actual way it's supposed to be hung vertically.
No, it's not. The Union Jack's always meant to be in your top left.
Is he in distress, Dave? Does that signify distress, or is it going to be
upside down if it's in distress, right? Like, yeah. No. Like, because when I got my official flag in the little book, it says you don't just rotate it 90 degrees. You actually have to have the Union Jack's always top left.
Okay.
Trivia for you.
I'm pretty sure it was the other way, but I could be wrong. But I think I'm right.
All right.
Yeah.
You do you, Dusty.
Okay.
Good night, boys.
Good night.
All right. Thanks, gentlemen.
Bye.
I don't even know how to stop this. End stream. Benjamin from
that's the
Australian
button.
Dog has recently been flagged as a white supremacist, but he's actually not. He's good friends with Elijah Schaefer, whose wife is actually Jewish.
African Jewish. To clarify
African
for the
Jewish.
record, African Jewish, man. African Jewish she is. Yeah.
You
Matty
still
J.
haven't pressed-
Stagg has an addiction
still haven't
to
pressed
blue
end.
flannels. He will never take it off. He sleeps in it's actually pajamas, and he loves it. God bless him. Merry
Live in
Christmas,
flannels,
everybody.
mate.
We're
We
still on
might be
air,
back
Dusty,
next
just
week.
before you don't get too carried away.
Yeah, what? Am I ending the stream?
Do you know how to end the stream?
Yeah.